First of all, thank you very much, both of you, for your presentations, and I think they kind of relationally pretty well click together. And I will start actually with a pretty provocative question for both of you, because both of you actually at some point mentioned it, that designers and both architects need to become much more politically engaged, actually. The discipline itself must become more political. Jorge, can you please kick it off? Why do you think design and architecture must become much more political? And what do you understand with it becoming political?
Well, like political is our system of organization, and basically architecture. I try to explain in this speech that architecture is concentrated mainly in the form during most of the 20th century, and for our group, architecture is not just a problem of form, physical form. It's a problem of social form. Then in that level is political. Like political is our form of organization.
Okay, thank you. Jorge, can you elaborate? Jorge, you're again, sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think as urban design is inherent, is in a sense always political, because you're affecting the relation between individuals and society, between private and public. But what I also try to explain in the presentation is that although participation comes from a really political struggle, empowering people can also be about really ordinary things that shouldn't be, per definition, be politics. Yeah.
And you also mentioned that one of your most important questions you actually asked is why? Why that we need actually that kind of hassle? Why do we need so much expense in terms of time and money-wise? What do you think? Why do you yourself believe in public participation? As you said, design and architecture already is political, though why do we still talk about participation as it would be at some sort of very, very not common or actually ununderstandable thing?
Well, the example that I showed about the Goudplein for me illustrates it really good. It was already designed as a public space. There were some playground facilities, some benches, but it didn't work. It was just, they tried everything to make it feel good, to people use it responsible, but it didn't work because people weren't involved. So when I came to that place, this was kind of the only option, to use the initiatives that were there from residents and try to look how can we make together this place better. And I think in a lot of projects, also with housing renewal, you should start from initiatives, ideas from people, and try to facilitate them, because in the end, the spin-off, the extra value will be much higher than if it's done only from planning department or only done by professionals.
Basically, I see this issue like an obvious issue. Always is involved in architecture, but not for being obvious, pass to the action. So in architecture, you can see an enormous difference between the speech and the action. The last Biennale of Venice now, for instance, you can see some speech, very social, and the form is exactly the same that the previous years. So architects have this, I don't believe that it's a quality, but this to use speeches with totally independence of the form. And they can mix the same speech or different speech according with the same form or the opposite. In that way, this is obvious, that to be more democratic. But in another way, I feel that in the last part of the 20th century and beginning of the 21st century, we are in the moment to apply or to be more powerful in relation with the bottom-up actions. 20th century was not a space for that. The discussion was socialism and capitalism. But now we have this opportunity to participate more in democracy, and architect could be an important actor in the and more democratic spaces and citizenship.
So actually, basically, it relates, Yuri, and what you told us about that people are in need actually to take control over the environment. Can you elaborate a bit? Because when you use the concept of power and control, there might be some contradiction. Can you please explain what you understand with the taking control of your environment? It's a very interesting question geographically as well.
Yeah, so one of the ideas about taking control of your immediate environment, in the case of environmental psychology, is that you use your environment to express yourself, to give cues to other people. For instance, in the case of privacy, you want to control your social interaction with others. And your immediate environment, your house, your front garden, if you have one, or the courtyard in the middle, might facilitate the social interaction and the means you have to control it. If you want to meet a lot of people, you can go to the courtyard, or if you want to retreat, you can sit in your front garden where you have a high fence or anything. But you can have control over it. And if you don't, then people might, eventually might objectify their neighbors. They might say, I'm going to shut off. So that's one, I think, important example of how having control over your environment increases the way you feel about it and feel responsible about it.
Okay, thank you. But I think it kind of comes more from Western thinking and global North thinking. And Jorge, please, can you maybe give us small examples if we are talking about environment as a context? You work with different kind of context and environments. What we can learn from the global South, especially you are dealing with completely different kind of next level architecture, I would say.
Basically, when you have less money, you can have more people creativity. That is also another maximum. When you have few money and few resources to build, the creativity increase because you need to solve your own problems. In that way, co-creation and participation is to profit the energies of everyone. The other system that we use and the system that we study in the universities is that the architect or the urban planner have almost all the power. One thing that we should fight is against this idea that the architect has the whole power in this situation. They should lose the power. The architect should leave a space for participation, and that is very difficult. It's very easy to say, but it's very difficult in the action. In the action, our minds are formed in that way for several years of study and several years to communication with other colleagues. That is one of the main issues. If you don't have so much money, you can have a lot of people and you can profit the energy of these people. Everyone has something to say in relation with architecture, and we should take that ideas also like a resource. Basically, in that issue, architects lose the control of the final product, but we can be more in the process of the production of the project architecture.
So the question is to lose control, exactly. Let it go, or actually to have it.
Well, I feel at best with commissions that I don't have this total control as a designer. So, as an urbanist, I try to make plans where residents will have a lot of control. So I don't design a plan for project developers to have control, but for residents to build their own homes, or to kind of in building groups build homes, and in that sense, I would gladly lose control and be in relation to in negotiation to a lot of residents and trying to make their living environment.
And another effect that produces that system is that you find surprising, amazing solutions that you never expect before. You should imagine one person behind the desk trying to imagine everything in his mind, on her mind. Really, you have a limit. If you have 100 persons thinking about that, the options of almost synapses, no? The options of co-creation is really exponentially higher. And the surprise that you find are really impressive when the process is really creative, when you are able to create a creative process. But we have several problems in that. What is the methodology we use? How is really the participation of the people? We have a lot of problems in that. Just I want to mention one of the main critiques that we receive in this kind of project, I didn't show any project, but the project that we do is that they are a kind of humanitarian architecture. Like humanitarian was something second class. And we say our answer is every architecture is humanitarian. You don't build for people that is not human. Then it's what is the issue with this humanitarian architecture? Everything is that it's the same. In urbanism, urbanism is political, urbanism is democracy. Then to deal with these issues is obvious.
Can I respond on this collective creativity? What I also think is in co-creation, it's really interesting to have this surprising creativity from all of its all of who is involved. But it's also interesting to think of design solutions that continue this creativity after the design has been realized, in maintenance, in renewal afterwards. And apparently with the designs that were made in the 60s and the 70s, like the Soviet blocks, but also the rational housing, social housing in Holland, this doesn't, this isn't receptive to this creative energy as maybe traditional housing before.
How do people perceive you when you go to them and start to work with any kind of given community project and you tell that you are a designer, but you won't be giving any answers, you will deliver questions? How people actually perceive this kind of changing role of design and architecture?
Depends of the place. For instance, in some countries where they use to solve the problem for themselves, the architects are the strange birds in the issue. No? The architects are the foreigners. Then for them it's strange that someone external can try to do something together. For instance, Nepal, when we are doing now some small schools in the mountains, we are trying to create participative processes because we will not be able to solve everything. Then if people is able to solve, we will be very happy in that case. In this situation, architects will come to the good result when architects will not be necessary anymore. When people could be able to do their own schools and also to increase their resilience for the next earthquake, in this case in Nepal. Then depend of the country. It's different when you have a developed economical country that they used to have urban planning and architects.
And that's the question. Do you consider that this kind of approach, and actually what you both presented, could it work here in Riga, in Latvia? Especially when you use one very, very abstract concept of circular economy. Can you maybe a bit elaborate on that?
I don't know what you think, but I believe that is one of the chances that Latvia has to solve with the co-creation or with participation. It's one of the options because it's so complex, the situation.
Well, I think it's just a fact, because when people, like in the ownership situation, own their own homes and they collectively have to renew, they're responsible for their buildings, one way or the other. So somehow this has to work. And as I said at the end, I think eventually everybody cares about their homes. So you just need this, need to facilitate this energy in a good way. And to respond to your previous question, how do people receive me as a designer in such a process? Well, it totally depends on how it started. Who takes initiative? If a group of residents comes with a plan, for instance at the Goudplein or with the ferry or whatever, and they come to a point that they need professional assistance to realize their ambitions, then you're received very well, and you will have a really interesting creative process. And you can also, they also have a responsibility towards you. You know, they ask me to do this, that's the best position, I think, to have.
Yeah, that is very important. That is not against professionalism. This is to be professional, extremely professional in your participation. It's not against that.
So yeah, you are not getting back, you are not getting rid of pressure, actually you are just gaining it. And okay, from my perspective, the most important question, where do we start? If we know that we need a place of beginning, we need a place where to start, where do we start?
You say in Riga?
Yes.
Well, the experience that we have had here is a workshop and social activities and events. I feel that it's extremely necessary to connect all the actors, all the person involved in this extremely complex issue. Because if you can have a picture about how the transition from socialist to capitalist, maybe that picture of Riga when you superpose the two layers, that is physically, there is physically the demonstration how passed from a socialist system to a capitalist system and how the system blocked. And you cannot move in that moment. Then how you create, how you break this block?
I think you should start by asking people what do they want? How can we help? In the sense that, for instance, yesterday I was at the exhibition of the Danish students for all kinds of design solutions for the micro-rayons, and I saw interesting. What I think is interesting that they make a first step in looking what the buildings are about, what they what you might do to these buildings to renew them, and then the next step is asking owners of these buildings, like, what would actually work, what do you actually need, and then look if there are possibilities in between. So I think you should start by really talking with the owners and start like experimenting with solutions that could work by renewing homes and houses, and then look also at the outside space from that scale on.
And of course involved to the landowners, because we don't speak so much about landowners in this issue, and that's a key actor.
Vai mums ir jautājumi no zāles, ņemot vērā, ka mēs esam kļuvuši specifiski jau tieši par Rīgu runājot? Ļoti grūti redzēt jūs ir, bet es saprotu, ka nav. Okay, actually, I have the one final question for both of you. It's kind of known and visible that we have invented lots of actually stuff. We have invented enormous amount of actually ways how to solve problems. So what do you think, design and architecture is a problem solving or problem disclosing event? Do we actually need to bring something more into the reality or actually first to get rid of something? How do you see design and architecture in that kind of context?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I'm really focused on process, and I think in this process things get solved and new problems also arise. But I would like to look at the outcome of a process that you create value, and for me, you know, being the inventor, an artist inventor like Buckminster Fuller to create really solutions to help the world, I don't feel it like that. I mean, it's beautiful that there are architects that do that, but I focus on the process and the value that comes out of this process.
I agree. Basically, the problem is the starting point. If you find the problem, a common problem with the community, also they can be joined, they can be together. If you don't have a common problem with the other one, maybe you don't join with the other one. If you have a common problem, you have a strong community. If you find that common problem, like in the case of Riga or the microrayon, they have a common problem, land property rights versus housing rights. you have the energy to start a process. But again, I agree, it's totally the process. You don't know where you are coming with this adventure. And that's the most beautiful, also, a creative process, that you don't know where you are going.
So, considering this, what would be your kind of farewell to the practitioners here in the audience, to the municipality professionals?
Well, I hope it would not be a farewell. So
And not a farewell yet, but what to take to home?
Difficult. Wait, I just would say that every place should find their own way. And we are here just to show some experiences that maybe could be useful, maybe totally unuseful. Maybe we are very naive in our approach to Latvia, but I believe that this is to stimulate that you can find their own solution, or not solution, but their own processes to go to somewhere.
yeah, I would say start doing it and get experienced in it, because I can tell a story, but it's really by doing, by learning it. It's so much about learning about processes, learning how people react and how to communicate. It's really sometimes in the details that you just have to learn. So people should start engaging and co-creating.
The communication that you mentioned is also a key question. How you really communicate? You communicate from the professional language. You should use another methodology. How you really connect in that, and that is something that we are not prepared for the universities. We don't study anything about that. Then it's almost we are amateurs in that. We learn with experience. Okay.
So yeah, thank you very much. I think it was very, very incredibly inspiring. Thank you.